Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gig Economy, the Gig App Podcast by Para. We've had a few different names, so just bear with me. A live weekly show where we cover all things gig related. We're trying to end out the year with companies that we believe in and the CEOs of those companies, like Delivered. We have today's guest. We have some other guests. We have Gridwise, just companies that we respect and like what they're doing. So good evening, David. Thank you for joining. Obviously, David and I co-host this. Before I introduce this week's awesome guest, David, can we give a quick, because I've had a lot of questions asked, can we give a quick update on Parapass?
You mean Pulse? Or
Pulse.
yeah.
There's just too many Para things.
I know. It's frustrating. I told people that was going to come out Monday. I think we just had a bit of a comedy of errors with the App Store, basically. So on our perspective, we've had to go back with updating some language, updating some settings. And my belief is it's going to be out tomorrow. Fingers crossed it's being submitted for review. And unless something goes wrong, it'll be available in the app. So I think what you'll see is just on the home screen, it will say Pulse.
Mm-hmm.
And click it and look at it, basically. You can link your accounts. If you link accounts, it adds to the Pulse map, basically. But that should really be it. The first version of launch is just super simple. You'll be able to see what other drivers in your area are getting as pings within a 40 by 40 mile radius around you, basically. So.
Right. But so as I understand it, I mean, and obviously things get log jammed over at Apple too, but like with on the Android side, I know this for a fact. Like, I don't even know if there's any checks because I've had things that people have wanted me to test that just don't work. But on the Apple side, they're very strict. So I don't know if it often happens, but
they sort of called us out for a screen that hasn't changed in like a year. But it's a different reviewer every time, and that's fine. Apple does a good job trying to make sure that they protect the privacy of people, and we very much agree with that. So I'm not upset about it. It's just delayed us a couple days. So,
sure.
Hold me to it tomorrow. It'll be out tomorrow.
So you guys, Parap Pulse, should hopefully it's out tomorrow. I mean, it's just kind of a waiting game with Apple now. So, but it'll be soon. I'm sure. So, but today, David and I are joined by the one and only Mr. Joel Shapiro, CEO and founder of Dumpling. You guys know how I love Dumpling too, so don't. It's always a pleasure for me to have Joel. So Joel, welcome.
I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know too, before we jump in, Joel's up in Seattle. He's very involved in some of the things like that Sergio and we talk about the legislation and stuff up there. The town hall we had here with Stephanie Vigil. He ended up speaking with her, and so he's not just running the dumpling company, he's also making sure that gig workers are being taken care of. So humanitarian award too, I guess. I don't know. Great company, great guy. Always enjoy your company, Joel. So but thank you everyone for tuning in as well. I will get to the chat here in a little bit to give you guys some time to roll in. But please post any questions as we go or anything relating to dumpling. So while we have Joel here today, we can ask him. But so I've got it kind of bullet pointed, Joel, where we can just kind of walk through some of this. Cause again, like I told you before we started, I noticed a big change on the website, on the landing page, and not for the bad. It just it was like, okay, cool. I like this. I dig this. So I'm going to save that for a minute here. And because I think we should start with the more traditional dumpling, because even that I kind of found buried in the website now. Well, not buried, but you had to, that used to be
it's not at the top. It's not at the top.
It's not at the top. So for those of you that are wondering, dumpling is the good witch against the bad witch of Instacart. So if Instacart's the bad witch, dumpling is the good witch. However, it's different. Okay, so don't expect, if you want to get involved with dumpling, don't expect to be fed jobs. However, we will get to a point about talking about marketplace, but you do find your own clients. And I've been doing it for a while. You don't have to have 800 to do well with it. That's something I've noticed. If you have one client, I mean, that alone is great. You know, I have 5 right now, and not all of them are as consistent. 2 are weekly. The other, you know, but they all treat me well. They all tip me after the fact, and I don't know what it is about Dumpling, but the people I talk to all say the same. I never really hear tip complaints or anything like that. Like, dude, nobody ever tips me. Like, people set their amounts, and you know, um you can connect any store. You can do anything with Dumpling, and I wanna be careful about this because I've said this before, but, like, when you're using the Dumpling app, if you need to go out and do a shop for somebody, you can go do 4 shops for them. Like, I have a client where I do a PetSmart, I do a Sprouts, I do a King Soopers, which is Kroger,
Nice.
and, you know, that ends up being a very extremely worthwhile time for me. Really helps this person out because I'm knocking out some serious time of their chores. And you know, I think Joel initially the team at Dumpling 2 talked me down a little bit from maybe having the amount set too high. You know what I mean? On the thing, go a little lower on the university team.
Yeah.
And well, wait, but I want this amount. And they're like,
It's
you'll get more on the tips if you take it. And they were
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Um,
It's always a fine line, right? Because I think that the trade-off is, especially for someone that's doing this work and is professional grocery delivery, you can maximize a single kind of job and get as much as you can for one time. And then on the other side of that can be, hey, when people look back and they say, hey, I just got $150 of groceries, but it cost this much. How much am I willing to do that every week or every other week? And so one thing that we always try to kind of help people look at is kind of the lifetime value of a customer, and pricing your services in that sweet spot where you need to get paid a fair wage and you need to be paid for your work and your time and your energy. And clearly, that's not going to happen with most gig apps and things like that, and certainly not on any kind of, I'd say, reliable basis. And you also want to do it in a way where your customers also say, hey, this is valuable, this is worthwhile, and I want to do it every other week. And if you can find that kind of sweet spot and that customer that appreciates it, it really ends up being kind of a valuable and a good kind of long-term relationship with your customers. And when you don't have to spend the time getting to know someone and marketing and find someone and realizing what their routine is and how to get in their house and what kind of things, then you can really get efficient at it and start to make a lot more money.
I got to tell you, I mean, I interviewed Joel for the first time way back.
Long time ago. It's yeah.
I mean, like David, I had you on my 5th podcast. I believe I had Joel on like my 25th. Like it was like that long ago. So
How many has it been now, Steve? Like 300 or something?
300 is Monday with Sergio.
Hey, there we go.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been
Congratulations.
it's like my age. It just goes up quickly. So but with the Dumpling app too. So okay, it's not feeding you customers, you guys, but like I was saying, get a couple. I've I've only had like I had one that I did a work for twice, and then they stopped using me, but it wasn't me, and they didn't go to another shopper. They just stopped using the app. Um, all my other shoppers have stuck with me. I mean, like they love it because they're like, "Oh, dude, I'm not ever using anything again." I mean, literally those kind of words every time. Like, wait, you're going to be around. I get you every time, even after I explain it and then do the shop, and they're happy. They're like, "This is great." And so every time they open the app, it's me. It's
Yeah.
not like searching for a rider. It's like me. And it shows my times. You can do features like set up where you'll be. So if somebody wants to try and add on an order while I'm at that store, they can. Um, you can set your times. You can easily take time off. You just got to do it correctly so your clients know you're gone. Um, you know, there's just so many cool features, and it is true independent contractorship, you guys. But that said, there's also Dumpling Marketplace. And I will say that, you know, there used to be more dumpling shoppers in my area. And now I do actually see or get contacted by a couple people on Marketplace where I didn't before. Maybe that's also because I have more reviews and whatnot. I don't know. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, you know, I have been, and I wasn't seeing that before. And so I started, and I also noticed, and I will say this to anybody out there, I also noticed that you do need to add every zip code. because I had mine, and so it was just in the beginning. It was just like, oh, you're.
Well, you know why we did that? Because we used to have like the old school, what's your home zip code, and then what's the radius around that. And as the bird flies isn't always very convenient if you're not wanting to go to downtown, or if you have a lake and you have to go over bridges to get to the other side. And so what we found is being able to kind of build your delivery zone by zip code really allowed people to kind of customize exactly the areas that they wanted to do jobs in, and the areas that they wanted to avoid. But it took a while to get there, because it wasn't the easiest thing to figure out how to build technically for our team.
Yeah, so I was looking at sort of Steve's profile before we all got on here. I thought that he actually has like 2 distinct zones, basically. Right. So,
right. Well, so that's why I need. So that's what I'm saying, David. Because Denver's big, I need to go in and add everyone.
Yeah.
You know, but and like Joel said, there's a couple that I don't want to go to, and this kind of makes it easy, because I can actually just take that zip coded area and just not add that one.
Yeah, and you do it once, right? It does take some time, and you have to kind of find a map that has all the zip codes in your area and look at it and add them. But once you have it set up, then I think it pays dividends.
But I love it because y'all are doing what all the major gig apps should do, right? It's like allowing people to decide where they want to be their service area, or where they want to do work with, right? I think that actually is a bit of a parallel to one of the features we have. We have a feature in sort of auto decline for DoorDash, for Uber Eats, Lyft, where it's basically like, I don't want to leave this mileage radius, or I don't want to go to these zip codes. Basically.
Oh, nice. And it'll figure that out in the time that you have to accept or decline. And that's fantastic.
And sort of delete it.
Well, no, but you can also set your parameters, and then it just does it, so you don't have to sit there and watch 10,000 bad orders.
Oh, I love that. And
I don't want to go more than 2 miles. I don't want to take anything under $5. I don't want to take something that says McDonald's, right?
You can name places.
No wonder so many people are using you guys now. That's fantastic. I mean,
or a feature, Joel, that we have flagging. Before we go more into Dumpling, we have a flagging feature. I think you'd appreciate this. You can flag locations. This is an apartment, there's nowhere to park, don't come here. This person doesn't tip, I don't want him again. So that when another ping from them comes through, you see it drop down your notes.
But I think I bring it up because I think, what we've always done when we build these features is, frankly, I've always said, like, I wish there was a world in which I didn't have to build these features and Para didn't have to build these features, because, frankly, the platforms that you work on should just have this built in and allow you to do that. And that's what you've done, right? You've done what we've said people, platforms should do. And I guess with that, I think it's awesome. But 2, I always find this interesting. Like, how did you decide to build this? Basically, like, how did Dumpling come around? Why are you here, Joel? Like, how?
Well, it was kind of like you, like your motivation in the sense that we tried other things when we originally started way back when. We were a very different Dumpling, but one of the things we tried to do was to kind of be somewhat of like a glass door for non kind of traditional work. So if you were doing hourly work and you go on Glassdoor and it's always this, did you get stock options? What do you think about the CEO? And in reality, if you're doing hourly work and shift work, did you get like scheduled, just enough hours not to qualify for any kind of benefits, or did you get like the graveyard shift and the morning shift right back to back? And so a lot of what we were trying to do was just advocate for people that didn't have a voice, and we were trying to collect ideas and do that. And what we had no idea and didn't expect was kind of overnight, we started having hundreds and hundreds of gig workers that started using the site and just posting like insane stories about what they had to deal with, and how pay was changing, and how they were being forced to take jobs or like risk getting deactivated, and just like story after story. And so where we first started was we started just like doing things like doing pay trackers and helping gather data and writing articles and sharing that out and being like, look at this like insane like underbelly of the gig economy and all the stuff that's being like just completely exploitive of the workers that are making it happen. So that's where we started. Where we got to was it didn't matter. It didn't make one damn bit of difference. Like no one was going to change. It was growing. And so kind of the conclusion that we came to kind of as a team and where to focus was, we just got to do something completely fundamentally different. And our belief was kind of exactly the ideas that you're implementing and talking about with Para, is that the system and the way the gig economy works is inherently screwed. And so we just believe that we have to come up with a completely different methodology of doing it. And Steve, you talked about like how your customers keep coming back and how great that is. Kind of our belief was, and then talking to so many, and Instacart was by far the most egregious offender. I mean, we had stories about
I love
Uber.
it. I love
We had
this. I
stories
love it.
about everyone, but God, the stuff we were hearing about Instacart and the people that, like, just incredible people all over the country that were just getting completely screwed. And so I think the thing that quickly we realized, so we spent time with hundreds or thousands of shoppers for years, just kind of learning their stories, and we were doing pay trackers and just seeing how we enter a market, start pay up here, and then quickly do, enter another market, pay up here, and you could just see kind of what was going on. But over and over again, we heard like the best people, like, they were always being asked, how do I get you next time? Like, I'm so sick of getting some dud that's going to come up and then getting you, and then a dud and then a dud. Like, how do I get you? And what became apparent to us, and I think it's just an obvious statement, was the gig economy wants to anonymize the workers and make it seem like the workers, there's no difference between anyone and everything. But the reality of it is the people that are shopping for your food, the people that are doing errands for you, the people that are coming into your house are everything. And so our whole thing is like, instead of building an app to tell you what to do and to do this and do this, is like, how do we just build an app that supports what you're doing, that lets you like get rid of all the technical things that you don't know how to do and all the decisions that that are hard, and helps you there. But at the end of the day, it's your business and you're running it. And fundamentally, if you're in control of your pricing, if you're in control of the services and the clients that you work, we can never like make a wrong turn and go down an alley where we decide we're gonna like reduce your pay by 50%. And so like part of the way we structured it was to really empower the workers, because they're doing everything. And part of it was to build a system that wouldn't allow us to even like be able to do those things. And I think kind of similarly, so like, how do we create an alternative to the gig work? And I love what you guys are doing. How do you almost put a middle layer in to filter out and like limit that stuff? And I think the stuff that I've been doing for the last 3 years with the Office of Labor Standards and the advisor committee is kind of the same thing. It's like, I'm going to spend some time building and working with our team to build a different alternative. And at the same time, knowing that the gig economy and the gig companies are continue to do what they do. And not everyone is going to be able to or want to start their own company, and or even know that that's an option. So they're going to go down that path. So how do we also work on laws and regulations and things like that to limit kind of the bad capabilities of the bad witches to exploit people? And so it's kind of been a two-pronged approach, and I really love what you guys are talking about and doing as well, because I think the commonality is, how do you empower the workers to be able to figure out what they want, what they don't want, and what's worth their while.
Yeah, and I really love what you said there. It's like, well, we found also just like, good gig workers are good, right? Good workers are bad good. And some people aren't that good, basically, but it's sort of unfair when everyone's just lumped into sort of being the same there, right?
Yeah,
exactly. When I worked at Uber, we had a lot of that request, right? Being like, hey, can I get the same Uber driver? Hey, I'm here for a bachelorette party for the weekend. We really love this Uber Black driver. Can we just book him again every trip?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And then we considered that a lot internally at Uber, but the answer was always that ruins marketplace dynamics, right? Any bit of friction leads to less matching. And basically the answer was...
Well, you also definitely would probably have an issue of people learning on their own to go do what Joel kind of did. Like, hey man, why don't you just call me from now on and not go through Uber?
Sort of, but I think the bigger risk was basic. One, you should be able to do that if you're an independent contractor. You used to deactivate.
Yeah, people. I know, but we know Uber does everything they can to make it so.
But the reality is, you want to know why we didn't do it, right? The answer is why we didn't do it was, what we learned was the biggest predictor on whether someone takes Uber or Lyft is the ETA. So anything that drives that ETA up even half a minute or a minute is no good, basically, right? So that's really the answer. It's like, hey, we know that people would want this, drivers would want this, passengers would want this, but it's not in our interest to allow this.
And And that's such a good point. And we actually, you know, we have like amazing advisors and different people we've talked to. And I remember early on people saying like, you're going to have to pick one or the other. It's a really hard thing to say that you're in it to support and build a platform for the workers, and at the same time saying like you're going to be a marketplace, because it's kind of one or the other. And so, and we had our foot in both, and we you know, we learned some hard things, and you know, we made some mistakes and we tried some different things, but it really is a hard thing to balance. And so ultimately where I think we've ended up as a company after some zigs and some zags is to say, hey, we're primarily always going to be focused on the service provider, on what we will call like business owners, local business owners. And we want to augment that with a marketplace. And we want to, like you're talking about, Steve, when you have really good reviews and you have, you know, like great profile and people are like all these stars and all these things, then it's super easy. Because then people can come to it and find it. But you get into this really tricky place where if you're spending time as a company promoting the marketplace and come find, and that's expensive, that's where the ads come in, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we just spent a lot of time and energy like getting this customer, and they're going to come to person A, and person A is like, I just didn't do it, or they flaked on it, and now you have to kind of do sticks and carrots. And like it really was for us, it kind of put us in a place where we were doing the very thing that we didn't want to do, like, you know. And so that and at the same time there's amazing people that are running their business that really benefit from the marketplace, and it can be good. So that's been kind of a constant thing to try to figure out what's the right balance, what's the right area. So I'd say, if you know, we're probably more 75%, 80% on like the tools and just what do you need to go and market, and what do you need to make decisions to like group things together in the same zip code and find people and have a website. And I would say maybe 20% on, you know, taking advantage and being fortuitous with the marketplace, but not going out there and spending a ton of money and marketing. So now we have to play the sticks and carrots game with people.
That speaks a lot to me, because we've done this initiative called Para Works, where we're basically like, hey, can we find other good paying work and put that in front of the workers in our system, so you can say no. Well, I guess what the philosophy is saying, the best way to say no to bad trips from the major platforms is if you have other good trips, basically, right? So we've gone in and we basically said, hey, can we work? A lot of drivers like catering, right? So lunch catering, dinner catering, office catering, it pays well, it pays quite a bit more than the regular trips. So we went in and started offering these, but I hear you very much in that there's a bit of a slippery slope, right? It's like, okay, now exactly what you said, somebody no-showed, somebody dropped it last second. How do you then go get somebody to go pick that up last second? All of that.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time trying to think through like what is a system which can still allow people to get this good work, but that is fair, doesn't have that slippery slope. I think what we decided on was basically like, look, you can cancel up to any point up to 3 hours beforehand. You can cancel at any point
with a slap on the wrist type penalty. It's like 72 hours that you won't get an offer.
But if you completely no-show, then you're just off. Basically,
I love this, because I used to run a bar, and I used to, you know, I didn't do 3 strikes, but I always gave 1. You know, if you no-showed, I'd call you and say, I want you here at 3 tomorrow. If they didn't show, they were fired. But if they showed up, I gave them 1 warning. But it's not even at a warning point anymore, because this is why DoorDash is losing the catering space, is because they allow 10% unassignments, and those unassignments can be moved over to catering orders. So how do you feel if you've ordered $1,000 worth of food for, like, Joel and I are good friends. I know Joel has a son who is doing track. Let's say there's a big track meet. You've ordered $1,000 worth of food, and it just, not only is it late or it's reassigned to somebody else, it just doesn't show. And they don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to go back to that company? Not a chance.
Yeah. It's really and that's where ultimately we decided, it's like, how do we just what are the tools that people need to really run their business and be successful, and go out and promote or find those things. That's kind of where we've erred on. And at the same time, we do have an ability as a national company, and, you know, a little bit more visibility and things like that to try to like stimulate and bring people in and find find someone that's amazing, and find a local shopper that, you know, is going to give them 10 times better service and longevity than random person potentially that's going to show up from one of the gig apps. It's a fine line for sure.
Yeah. So I was gonna say that, it's funny because I've always said that once you guys met, I knew this would align, but I'm even hearing it align more. Like when I heard David just recently or just a minute ago talking about Pairworks, I'm thinking, and I'm thinking about what you said about, what if a shopper doesn't show? Yeah, it still reflects on the dumpling platform, but really there's a difference because the dumpling shopper, let's say me, since I actually do it, that's on me. I now lost a client.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, did it hurt dumpling? Maybe a little, but not like the way the other apps are. It's more like I'm really going to get a beating on this one.
Yeah. And that's
That's how it
such a good
should be.
point.
That's how it should be.
Exactly. I think that's where, in kind of reference, we've had our ups and downs and our challenges, of course, but especially, we blew up during COVID, grocery delivery, gig apps and things like that. And the amount of people, both from shoppers and kind of customers that came onto the platform, it was crazy, right? So we were like doubling every 2 days, and like it's just but we had so many people that were signing up that didn't even understand that there was a difference, right? And so some people like didn't even realize, because there were also like Instacart and Amazon were full, so all of a sudden people were coming and just getting orders. So it felt a little bit like just like a normal gig app. But after that kind of, we rode that wave and then rode it the other way. I think that's really where we figured out, like, we're not a platform for everyone. This is not the equivalent of sign up for DoorDash and just have things come. And there's a subset of people where it's a horrible app for them. It's a horrible platform for them because they're not going to do the work to really win a customer over or find a customer. And it's just not going to be a good experience for them. It's going to be hard on us as a company. It's going to be hard on the customers. And there's a subset of people that take a lot of pride and ownership in their work. They value the relationships with the people that they shop for and they do these jobs for. And so part of where we've really had to steer and learn and evolve to is just, how do you like make people understand, like, if this is you, if this is the type of like personality you are, and this is the type of work that you're putting, this is going to be a fantastic platform for you. And if you're expecting this, just let's not waste anyone's time. We're not going to be a good fit.
If you're not a hustler, and I mean by that I mean, like, you're going to make, first of all, I can say this now because I've been doing it long enough, that you're going to make way better money on dumpling once you have some clients. Way better money, as long as you set it up right. Now again, I didn't hit on marketplace enough. So what marketplace does, we only talked about the zip codes, but what it does is it allows people, once I enter those, to be able to see, oh, he shops my zone, and I'll show up on a dumpling search. So if somebody does, and they're just looking in Denver, they will find me if I list that zone.
Yeah.
Also, there's perks that we've talked about before, but I'll just quickly mention them. Like, if you are a certain way, like I think one time we talked about like, maybe a person that was like a sport, like a gym enthusiast. And he was like, he had a lot of clients that he also was like training. He was like a trainer. And so he had like this great diet, or if like you're paleo, or if you eat, you have a very select diet, you can put those in your dumpling profile. And then when people find you and you're like, I eat paleo, but like you're willing to shop for whatever they want. If they want meat, you'll go shop for meat. But if you eat paleo and you put a little bit of you into that profile, you might get clients on that.
Yeah. He's huge. Yeah, it really is. And on so many different levels, there's like, I understand this diet. I can help pick the great things out that are going to fit with this diet. There's just familiarity. Think about people that run daycares is a huge business, right? They're typically ordering from Costco and have huge amounts. And Costco is one of the probably biggest markups on Instacart and some of the other ones. It's huge amounts of money. And now you're having random people that are showing up at your daycare during the day. So imagine the benefit of knowing who that shopper is when they're coming in and bringing your things. Families with special needs in them, and familiarity of how to like come and approach the door, or just people that want to kind of interact with people that they know and trust and know how they want a certain thing. And that's really, I think, the place where it really shines is when just the person is putting a lot into it and they're putting into their relationship. It's such a good deal compared to, like people are so, and that's where we're like, Dave, Steve, if you do a good job, like you're gonna get a great tip. And it's not required, like if you put beforehand.
No. I get extra tips on almost every order.
Yeah.
So even my clients know, I don't know why, they just put 20% or whatever, but every time they extra tip me.
Yeah. And they feel good about it, right? When it's their decision to be like, this was amazing, I'm going to give you an extra tip, versus this service was 50% markup instead of 25% markup over, or something like that. It ends up being the same, but the mentality of like this decision to do it. And then of course, as a platform, we just try to make it so it's, it can't get forgotten about. Here's a reminder of you tip Jed and different things like that. But yeah, the mentality of things really does play into a lot of these kind of results for people.
And so I know David had a question on this too, and I want to mention something. So I have customers here. Not every state does this, but so King Supers is Kroger out here in Denver, in Colorado. So, and City Market is Kroger too. So I have customers who want me to shop at King Supers. When I do, they can use their digital coupons. They can use their coupons. They can get their gas points. They can get, I can enter their phone number, which gets them out here, get some gas points. Doesn't happen in every state. You're getting in-store prices. And David had a question about how because I can add any store I want. I can add things that aren't even there. And like, if need be, I can just talk to somebody at Dumpling. That's kind of the type company it is. It's like, hey, I want to shop at this butcher shop, and they're not really on anything, and it's, to me, that's huge. It's like, that's like, you can keep it local.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do the inventories, Joel? Or like, how?
David, we have gone in many different directions and spent a lot of time on this. And ultimately, it's a combination. We've had partnerships with major grocery stores that have reached out and said, "Hey, we'd love to like sync our database," and that's always a good thing. But ultimately, where we ended up is, if your partner or you're like someone in your family or your roommate is going to the store, you can write them a list or you can text them a list, and they're going to know exactly what to get to. So we could spend a lot of time like chasing down, having the perfect catalog and things like that. And then you look at inflation and how quickly prices can change. You look at the difference in a price, even if you have Kroger or Albertsons or whatever, the difference in price in Hawaii versus the difference. And it's just like, it's just an endless, completely like just hole that you can chase. And so where we've really tried to lean on is, look, people are smart. Your shopper is smart. We can give you tools. And one of the things that we recently launched was basically, at first we were like, okay, we had all these catalogs and, we get them in different places. And then we always had a write-in, just like, hey, just write in what you want. If it's not in here, just write in what you want. And that write-in might be like, hey, Steve, can you let my dog out afterwards and the key, and I'll throw in an extra $50. Like, if people use it for anything they want, but oftentimes they'll put kind of like, hey, can you go to the store and get me like whatever the fresh fish is, like get me that, if they get that deal. What we've started to do that people have loved is really kind of build on that write-in. And so just recently the team added like an awesome capability to use image search. So now you can just say, I want to write in, and then actually like go and have like a Google go out and like index all, or not index, but search all these things. Say, yeah, that's the thing I want. Boom. So you can imagine, like, I want to get a Captain Crunch, and then just here's an image from the web that this is the one I want, or fish or something. So we just try to make it kind of an open platform where people can just, the end goal is to make it easy for them to communicate what they want you to get.
That makes sense. So you're like, you can put in the custom pricing, you can put in the custom item, and you're just
But at the same time, Joel, I can pull up or have a client pull up King Supers or Safeway or whatever, and they do see the items, probably the national average type thing. And of course that varies, but here's a big difference with Dumpling too, is that not only is it acceptable, it's required that you give the customer the receipt, take a picture of the receipt. And that's huge, because Instacart says, don't do that. Don't give them the receipt.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah.
And that's basically one of the big things that for us has just been huge. And even when it gets into the marketplace dynamics of who do you show and who do you not show, our thing from the very beginning is let's just be transparent. Let's just like, where do the fees go? This is actually a platform fee that this is where Dumpling makes its money. This goes to your shopper, because this is how they make their money. This pays credit card fees. And, sometimes it gets a little bit like, there's a lot, it's easier if you can, but we're like, look, we're just always going to err on the side of just putting it all out there. And I think it's the same thing with receipts is long ago. It's just, it's generally the bigger the order, the more time you spent shopping. Right. And so, one of the things, but then there's like credit cards and that changes, like credit card fees and things like that. So where we evolved to is just like, if people price and they have the ability to do $10 and $15, we've kind of given them every like tool you want to price your services. But in general, if you just say, I'm going to charge $15 to go to the store for you, and they ask you to go get $500 of stuff, you're losing out big time. And so the model that really works that we found is just get a percent. If it's 18%, 20%, whatever the store total is, then your markup for the service to go and shop and bring it to the house and everything is 18 or 20%. And you are going to get all the benefits of the sales at the store, the 2-for-1s. Like if I have a card that can run and make the prices go down, and then here's a picture of the receipt so that you're just accountable to that. And everything's transparent, and that really has ended up being the pricing model that the vast majority of people use. And as you do more work, you get paid more. And then also, like, we've evolved to say, okay, but sometimes if you're only getting 10% and they want you to go across town to get a Snickers bar, that kind of sucks. So we've kind of combined that with a minimum of like, you can put in to say, hey, if I'm going to go to the store with you, it's $20 at a minimum. But if it ends up being a big price and over $20 at 18% of the total, then we're going to do that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that I just love the full transparency too. I know that's something that y'all supported, sort of the bill with Stephanie in Denver. We did. Obviously, Steve was also a big proponent.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me, that was really what we were trying to push forward, was just like, you just show transparency. Everybody knows how much everyone makes out of this, and people didn't want that. People didn't want that, right? So we do have a question in sort of the comment section here, I think, from Mr. DSN. Sort of,
that's Derek. He's here in Denver.
Are there any store types or product types that are not allowed?
Yes. So basically, the limitations come from like the platform that we use for credit card processing. So it's going to be liquor stores and like tobacco stores. And then oddly enough, like some weird things like that are in there, some that make sense, some that don't. I think like sex toys is in there, but it's essentially kind of a pass through of our credit card processing rules. So the vast majority of things are totally allowed. I think that we could kind of figure it out market by market for alcohol and things like that, but the cost of getting permits for each city or locale or state, depending on how it is a little bit much. So some people do that, but that's kind of just like off our platform, and basically that any store, any kind of service that you would want to do is fine. And then basically the big ones are alcohol, tobacco, are the ones that are limited.
So Joel, when you pay for the order that's coming through a Dumpling credit card then, or?
How do we make our money? Yes.
Oh, no. I mean, like if I go to the store and I'm going to pay for $300 worth of groceries, that's on a Dumpling credit card?
Yeah. So that's another big thing that we do is we provide a Dumpling. Actually, I think technically we have to call it a charge card now, not a credit card.
I thought I had mine with me, but I was going to show you my black card.
Yeah, it's a Dumpling card, and then a lot of what our team has built, which is really incredible, is like funding mechanism. So as you get an order, your card is funded. And so that way you don't have to front. That was another early on, a really big kind of a challenge for people when we used to ask, hey, why do you keep working for Instacart? Like, and we're like, I don't have the technology to do it. I don't have the money to go front $300 for multiple orders a day. And so that's another thing that we do is we give you a card, and when you get an order, it gets funded. And then you go do it. And then basically on the back end of things, the way we do it is we kind of charge we place a hold on the customer's credit card. And that allows us actually to do a lot of like fraud detection and make sure the credit card's good, and also then be able to kind of just be able to charge it later. And then you go and shop with the card. You attach, let's say you went to 2 stores, you went to Costco and you went to King Supers. You attach those receipts. Then the invoicing is automatically calculated for you because it's based on percentage or flat fee and all of that. You hit charge, and then we basically charge the customer's card for that amount, and then take, like the money to pay back the groceries, take the credit card processing fees and do that, take your earnings and put it into your account. And then also for our platform fee, which is where we make our money, that comes to us. So kind of all of the splitting of the money and everything happens on the back end, and then do the automated receipts and stuff for the customers.
But David, let me add this though too. So like, if let's say, David, you're my customer, and every week you order $400 worth or $300 worth of groceries, or whatever you're doing, and so it puts that ghost charge of 10 or 20 bucks or whatever on there. When I do the order, the shop, it goes away. But that's what he's talking about for the hold. But here's the other thing: if like say Thanksgiving comes up and you have a bunch of people coming and you have a $2,000 grocery bill, I can call Dumpling and get that approved.
Yeah.
I can go over the norms
to build, not just like a one-off, like, here's a debit card, but a instant, like, pulling from one card, using that balance to fund another card, all the errors that happen in between, all of the fraud that can be done and all that. So I know that's not easy. I know it sounds
we have an incredible engineering team, and what they've been able to build and do has been nothing short of, I'm just kind of amazed by it on a daily basis. But yeah, it's complex. We always laugh sometimes, and we're like, man, you could take part of our business that we've built and you can go and like recreate Greenlight, like the credit card company for kids. And there's so much in each little part of the business that's been developed. But yeah, they've developed just an immense amount of IP and figuring out how to do those things, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, because I know people say, hey, that doesn't sound that hard. I'm like, as somebody who's had to draw some of these things out or try to do these things, like doing it well at scale is hard. Is hard.
Yeah.
So I have a question on my end, which is, I think for people who are listening here, a lot of people do food delivery. Some people do Instacart. So the obvious, if I'm one of the people here and I'm saying, hey, I want to go find customers, right? The obvious one is I make a delivery to a house. Let me go tell them that maybe they can use me in the future. I go deliver a large catering order. Maybe I tell them, hey, if you have anything you need, here's my, Steve's Dumpling page, basically. Outside of that, just direct asking somebody that you're already doing on the trip, like, what are the best ways you've seen that people have customers?
Yeah, and Steve has had some amazing people. Celeste that's out in the Jersey Shore and how she runs her business, and Susie Q that's in Riverside and outside of LA. They're just like incredible, and I would say those two are amazing examples of like networking within their kind of city and their chamber of commerce, and with all the grocery stores. Their grocery stores are just handing out their cards of doing these things. Celeste has partnered, and she's on the city chamber of commerce where she lives, and every single business like is promoting her, and she does like she's added their stores to say, hey, I can do delivery for this dim sum place, or I can do delivery for this bakery, and it's incredible the amount of promotion that they do. And Susie Q is the exact same way. She's had stores that outright like don't want anyone doing delivery, and some of their local like local people that are saying, hey, if you need delivery, you need help, like Susie Q is out there. And so I think that's a big one. Word of mouth is another one.
That's my biggest one.
People always want to, like, when they join, they want to do all of this crazy, I'm going to spend all this money marketing on Facebook and doing this and that. And, it's worked for some people for sure, but it just feels like it more often than not, it doesn't really, like, spreading this gigantic net out it's not as effective. And so what we've seen is like, hey, you do a really good job. Like when you do get, we always kind of say, start like with your inner circle of friends and family or a business that, do a really good job, get a review, get some things out there. I think it's a great place to start. I've also found in Facebook groups, there's so many Facebook groups for neighborhoods and cities and different things like that. So just a personal post of like, hey, here's who I am. I just started this business. I'm going out on my own. I've worked on gig apps for 3 years, and I want to kind of go out on my own. And my business is represented on this platform. That tends to, I think, just being authentic.
There's a
And
profile that you can send them to,
yeah,
so
here's a
that you are
profile.
actually part of it. Yeah.
And then I think some people are really good at just saying, "Hey, if, someone's, hey, you're so good. Thank you so much. Is there anything I can do?" I would love a referral. If you have anyone that that can share. So I think people that are, and then it just kind of builds on itself and builds on itself. And I think that's the way that I've seen it be most successful. Is not like I'm going to go out and market and overnight I got all these these customers, but more I just do a really good job at what I do, and just kind of builds and builds, and before you know it, a year later you have this really incredible customer base.
It's sort of like, there's always like your friends ask you, like, I've got a guy or I've got a gal, right? You're always like, I've got somebody for you, basically, right?
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
about that. Like, I use the same moving company pretty much every move, and if anyone ever asks me about moving, I'm like, they're the people. Ask them, they will touch it, and like just go with them, basically.
And people want to like support the local, the individual, the local company. No one wants their money going to some of these gig companies, and
more than ever now. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Joel, Instacart's paying $4 an order now.
Yeah, we always see. There's always every time it's like we kind of joke. It's sad, but we kind of joke is like you can kind of set your watch to every 6 months to a year, one of these grocery delivery gig companies is going to do something just totally shitty. And we're going to, all of a sudden, we're going to be looking at our signups and they're going to go up and we're like, well, what happened? And so we're just looking at this and kind of go back to like late July. Sure enough, we had a bunch of like spikes in people signing up and starting their own business. And doesn't take long. You just do a Google search and you're like, oh yeah, I see Instacart did this. And it's kind of dumbfounding, but at the same time, it's been so long, it's just an expected thing at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly that the word of mouth is where it's at. Now, I often talk to Holly. Holly and I do a thing every couple weeks, but we, she doesn't get that as much. She doesn't see as much word of mouth, I had one now I have 3 customers from the one, or 2 more, so 3 total. But she was so hating Instacart that when she found me, I don't even know if her expectations were that high. She was like, is this just Instacart kind of thing? Is this just Instacart called Dumpling? And I'm like, no, not at all. And so I walked her through it, and that's another thing. If you're willing to spend a few minutes with these people, they appreciate it on such a level you wouldn't believe. Like Joel was saying, I have door codes to people's houses because I prefer not to leave their groceries in the dirt, and they don't want me to. They're like, can you put it inside? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's where it
belongs. And let my dog out while you're at it, and I'll throw you like a little bit extra.
Yeah, and that's and like all that kind of stuff, and like anything that does get weird, you can have the card authorized for it. You can contact Dumpling and they'll work with you. Yeah. And in fact, since we have to hit on the one last topic, I at least want to touch on Dumpling University because that's a huge thing. I mean, I think like they can help you. Like I'm not getting clients. They literally can help you at that kind of level, even. Like if you're like, well, what are they going to do for me? Anything.
Yeah, and that's where we learned that early on too. Was it's like we can provide the technology, we can provide kind of all these things, but at the end of the day too, there's an element of and I think the thing that we keep talking about, the thing that everyone needs to really provide is the actual person doing the work, and that is everything. But as a supplemental to that, I think there are a lot of people that haven't run businesses before that are really, really good at being a shopper, incredible at relationships, but maybe they're just not, quite used to like selling themselves and comfortable going out and talking about pricing and or figuring out how to price or kind of like where to start in some of these things. And so that's definitely something that our team has spent a lot of time of just like best practices. You get to talk to so many people and the ones that have been successful, and how do we kind of aggregate all those best practices and make that available for people in a way that really kind of helps on the side. And some of it's not even just business know-how. Some of it's just like you need some confidence, you know, and a little bit of someone saying, hey, it's okay, like it's going to suck and you're going to get a lot of no's, and that's okay, because think about, like, for every 10 no's you get, you might get one yes, so be happy with those no's because it's getting you forward. And I think just some of those perspectives are really helpful, and so that's something that the team has really like put together some great content on, and I think it's really helped as well.
And I mean, no questions out of limits either. So you could be super advanced and have a question,
Yeah.
or and I mean, I don't know. So and the people there do dumpling too. So it's not like they're just like, I don't know. Let me tell you about marketing. Like they
Yeah.
know the platform. They know,
Yeah.
oh yeah, well, have you tried the, I don't know. And it might not even be their idea that is like knocks you on your back. It might be like that you get an idea off their idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something that no other app offers. No other app does. In fact, they try and avoid training you. They don't want you even having videos of training, because then you might come back and say, you trained me wrong. They have so many lawsuits, these big companies, they don't even want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's in there too. I do want to talk about the while
Resort.
we wrap up here, the vacation grocery delivery,
Yeah.
because I think this is huge. I view it like the large order program that's failing over at DoorDash, and that's why all these catering apps are popping up. Is because business in there's more business in catering, or there's more
Yeah.
money in catering. There's more money in last mile courier than doing
Yeah,
rideshare.
I see parallels there. Yes, yeah. So this is an area of the business that has really been growing for us, and that our team, as you kind of mentioned, with like the website change and things like that, has been focusing on now for a couple of years, and really, so basically, what it is that businesses that are doing grocery delivery, but they're also then doing it specifically for people that are coming from out of town, and they're staying at a vacation rental house, they're staying at a hotel, and they want to arrive, and they're going to get in, and they're going to arrive to a house that's fully stocked. You know, things are on the counter, things are put away in the fridge, and this is a huge growing kind of part of the economy now. I mean, they similar to kind of all different trends. I think one trend we're seeing is that, you know, obviously with the rise of Airbnb and vacation rental sites and things like that, more and more people are starting to stay in those types of accommodations. And at the same time, you know, that's taken away from people staying at hotels, and there were a lot of kind of services built into a hotel. You know, there's a restaurant downstairs, there is a spa, there's, you know, all kinds of things. And so we're seeing basically I would say a little bit of a movement away from kind of the typical, I'm going to stay at an Airbnb, but like everything is for me to then figure out, and I got to throw all my sheets in the washing machine and take the trash out and all this stuff. And more of these companies are starting to offer, I think, kind of services and say, hey, would you like, and this is, you know, very kind of nice, like high-end accommodations at ski resorts or at beaches or in cities
If
like
I'm going to be
Nashville
spending
or
that kind of
Austin.
money to go on vacation, I
Yeah.
don't want to shop.
Yeah.
I don't want to go figure out a store in a different state.
Yeah.
And I would
And you,
just, and that's where it's like, it literally becomes, I'm going to pay you good because I would
yeah.
love to get there and have it stocked.
Exactly. And there's a lot of work to be done in terms of, hey, you have to actually, if you're doing the grocery delivery, you have to reach out and get in touch with the property managers. And Holly knows this, and get the entry code. Those people need to trust you to come into their $1 million homes and have everything going really well. And so over the years, we had seen a lot of our, dumpling people that were using kind of our core dumpling platform starting to be successful in this space. And we saw that at Disney World, we saw that at beaches, we saw that in some ski resorts. And Steve, you had mentioned that you saw a Littleton
Yeah.
person, and John Miller, who joined our team a couple years ago. His background was he actually started one of the first and most successful vacation-based grocery delivery companies in Vail and Aspen. And he was doing it before he talks about this. He's like, I was doing it before anyone really knew what grocery delivery was, because he moved out to Vail to snowboard in Aspen, and was delivering pizzas for Domino's to the Ritz Carlton and things like that. And this is, I guess, back in 2002. He obviously can tell a story a lot better than I can. But then people are like, hey,
How did he afford to live in Vail working for Domino's?
I don't think I think this is probably a lot of his motivation on starting his own company. But you fast forward, and he turned it into a gigantic company for doing vacation grocery delivery. So kind of delivering to people coming from out of town, fully stocking their, like their places at the Ritz-Carlton or really nice places. And so he did that for 15 years and then ended up selling his business to a resort holding company. And then we hooked up a couple of years ago after he had taken a break, and he said, "Hey, there's no one really focusing on, we had success, and we were trying to figure out how to make it easier, because there were a lot of challenges with using our core platform for someone that wants to schedule 2 months out, and all kinds of different things. And there was a lot of overlap, but also a lot of very unique needs for vacation grocery delivery. And so he's joined the team, and it's been unbelievable to kind of learn from his experience doing vacation grocery delivery, marry that with our experience doing grocery delivery and ordering and kind of creating a platform. And so we started doing that a couple of years ago. I think that also, as like a lot of these businesses have a lot of employees and they have to scale up and scale down with the busy season. So we've really been able to kind of build on our platform and customize it towards the things that are very needed and unique of, hey, when I'm placing an order, I have to give you, the property manager contact information. I need to tell you when I'm coming. And oftentimes it's like, there's all different types of information that you need to be able to do and check out. You don't know what the store is because you're coming from out of the country, or you don't care what the store is. And so that's been an area that we've really invested in. It's worked really, really well. We're seeing it grow like crazy. And so we found it's a really nice kind of addition to our business that leverages so much of what we've been doing for the last 5-6 years.
I think it's super smart, because I only ever use Instacart for one use case ever, which is we have like a team offsite, or like the team's meeting somewhere. You're going to have like 8 people in the house or 6 people in the house, and you want the fridge to be stocked. And that's the only time we ever use Instacart. And there's always this awkward, who's going to be there first? We order it for some time. The food's going to be left outside. If the first person who arrives plane is late, then the food's just out there for 5 hours, basically.
Yeah.
So actually that use case.
Let us know next time you have your offsite. We'll maybe make that a little bit better experience. We'd love to.
So that we can wrap this up, I know that there's probably a ton of questions because there have been people in and out, and we've been running around. There's different streams going, and I see that there's a handful of people. But Holly and I next week, we do it every other week, but next week we are doing one prior to Thanksgiving. If you do have any questions about the resort stuff, the percentages and all the stuff that we don't need Joel to be here for, come watch us next Tuesday on Holly's channel, and we can get into those kind of questions. We were having Joel here more to just explain give you guys the heart of dumpling. It's I think we covered a lot, but I mean, like, it is a true IC thing. There is a marketplace where people can find you. You word of mouth is big. You set your prices. This is your job. I mean, we all say we're ICs. David and I have talked many times. I think I've said this with you too, Joel. I think it's undefined. I think they screwed up by letting the legislation come before the definition of an app-based gig independent contractor. Because I don't, like you were saying, a lot of people don't know how to run businesses. If that's the case, then nobody would be independent contractors, because to be one, you need to know how to run your own business.
Yeah, we've seen, I think that's one of the things I've been really impressed with when we talk about the Office of Labor Standards in Seattle and a lot of the legislation that's been passed through the city council, is kind of saying, let's not focus on if someone's an independent contractor or not, because obviously we've learned a lot over the years with different legislation, and let's just focus on like the type of work they're doing and what they're doing, and try to pass laws that protect people from that standpoint. Because if you get too defined in one thing or the other, it either leaves a lot of people out, or it doesn't apply to people, and you're trying to push something that doesn't make sense. And so it's been really neat to see kind of how that's evolved to catch up to the point that you're making, which I think is a really valid one.
Yeah. So David, do you have a last question for Joel? Because we should wrap this up, but do you have a last question for Joel before I wrap this up?
No, I don't really, not more questions, just more so I just love the way that you view this work.
I mean, Look at, if you guys know me and you know David and that and what we stand for, Joel stands for those same things. It's like the three of us up here are the transparency people. Like we're the ones, I mean, there are others, but we're the ones who really shove it down your throat. Like you are owed transparency.
Yeah, really,
if nothing else.
I just love the way that you've built the platform, and I'm beyond that. Also, the advocacy work that you're doing is just thank you, I guess. So.
Yeah, again, that's what I'm saying. Same type of things we're doing too. I mean, he talked to Stephanie for an hour and a half to try and give her his. I don't even know what you guys talked about, but I'm sure it helped her.
Well, it was helpful for me too. It's really cool to hear the things that she's fighting for and all the conversations and things she's learned from you guys as well. So it was a fun conversation. And I will say this one thing is, it's easy for me to be here talking about this because our entire team feels this way. I think one of the things that and David, I'm guessing you have the same dynamic at your team. It's really easy when you have a company full of people that are like super passionate about this, and it's like the combination of how do we make a successful company and do these things, and at the same time, hey, they could be working in a lot of different places and they choose to work at Dumpling because they really believe in kind of the fight that I think we're all on the good side of. So
now before I'm gonna sign us out right now, but that's Ron Dasher Life Hawaii. He was written up not too long ago for making over 100,000 doing gig work on the islands. You mentioned Hawaii earlier. Hawaii is available.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We have quite a few people in Hawaii, and on both the resort side and of course on just
because I could see that being a big thing for him.
Side. Absolutely.
Because he actually does. He's dealing with these people all the time, and it's a constant flip in Hawaii of guests. So it's just,
I imagine, yeah.
So
I guess with that also, I just wanted to maybe bring up Luis. I'm not sure if you know Luis, who runs Delivery TV. Steve, maybe you give
yeah. So Joel, Luis is he runs a channel that's probably bigger than any of the other YouTube channels, to be honest. I mean, you might be going, well, how? Because how have I not heard of him? He is the Spanish community. So they almost all of them speak Spanish. And I was even asking him because he has a big event coming up that like he I don't know, he's got 70,000-80,000 subs, and it's very active. When he goes live, it's very active, but most of them aren't even second language English. They just speak Spanish. So I don't know if there's something there that if he's in Houston. I don't know if that starts turning any wheels.
I think that absolutely, because I think that's one of the really beautiful things about kind of the approach that we're trying to take is that you build your own network. So we have people in Houston that are like just tapped into their Argentinian communities or the Venezuelan communities, right? It's like the ability to know who your customers are, for them to get you every time, to go shop at your specific type store is a really big one. So I think within any kind of demographic and thing, the ability to kind of serve your community and for your community to like always be able to get you is a really big thing. So I think, so I totally think that would be a great fit.
Yeah, and the last comment I will make too, that yes, the card from Dumpling covers whatever you're charging, but you out of your money are able to, and I've done this a couple of times, not because I did anything wrong, but you're able to, being your own boss, take some money off if they wanted 3 stores and it seemed like the charge was a decent amount. I've taken a chunk off as like, oh, don't worry, you know what, I'll knock one of the store charges off, and then I get double the tip. So they're like, they paid for it twice anyway. It's like, thank you. And then, I don't know. It's just, it's truly running your own business. We've hit our hour here. We've kept Joel over. So you guys, we are going to end this, but I want to thank Joel as always. I know I've spent hours on just phone calls with Joel too, sometimes personal, sometimes business, but he's just a great guy. The company reflects his person is how I see it. It's just a company I like to work with. I don't know. There's not a lot of apps do I like to work with. Most of us just plug away at some apps and are like, well, it feeds me, or I'm getting some money off it, but they're not loving it. It's not a passion. Nobody has a passion for DoorDash. Like a love affair kind of thing, it's like, it doesn't exist. But Joel, thank you again for your time. I'm really glad that you got into this lineup of CEOs and stuff that we're doing before the end of the year, because it's that we really want to point out the good people, and I feel like you and David have needed to meet forever, and now you have, and we're all on the same page. So hopefully in this new year, I think, and I was saying this before the show, I think there's going to be a lot of new trends, and I think there will be ups and downs. Though don't view that as everything's going to get better. I'm not giving you tips about like, oh, everything's going to get better, and no, I think there's going to be ups and downs. But I think overall, it might be the small guys' year.
I like that. That would be a nice change for sure.
It would.
And, no, always a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. And David, really nice to meet you. And I was saying, I felt like I met you and watching the show and different things, but nice to officially do so. So
yeah,
it's really impressed with what you guys are doing too.
Everybody that's watching, thank you for watching on all the different platforms. We are on Facebook. We are on 2 YouTubes. We are on Twitter. We are on Twitch. And we will not be here next week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We are back on Thursday, November 30th with Matt Spoke, the CEO and founder of Moves. So until then, but I do have a show next week though that will premiere. So even if you can't catch it right at this time, this is when it will premiere, the normal time, but catch it. I won't tell you what it is. I'm putting something together, but we have we have Matt on the 30th, and you guys be safe, earn smart, have a great Thanksgiving. And we will see you back here soon. Joel, if you can stick 1 minute with us.
No problem.
Okay, guys, have a good one. Be safe. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays.